Welcome to just another day in War Without End. This is the Outer Heaven Armory. I'm Bliskin, and today's gun is the FAMAS G1. The FAMAS G1 is part of the FAMAS family of rifles. It's a prototype made by the French military during their process of developing the FAMAS G2 from the FAMAS F1. It's a bullpup design, meaning the firing mechanism is behind the trigger, and it takes, like most modern rifles, 5.56 by 45. It utilizes a lever delay blowback mechanism, which gives it an incredibly high fire rate, however makes it a little pickier for what ammunition you can feed into it. The G1 was a prototype that never saw mass production. It features certain characteristics of both the F1 and the G2. It features the proprietary French 25-round magazine from the older F1 variant, but then it also features the newer G2 style trigger guard. The first time we got to see this rifle in the Metal Gear series was in Metal Gear Solid back on the PlayStation 1. It is seen as the standard issue rifle on the Alaskan base of Shadow Moses. Now this is extremely unordinary, as normally US affiliated forces would use some variant of an M16 or M4. However, there are potential reasons that could explain why they are using an obscure French prototype rifle. One of the reasons could be that it is well suited to winter environments, with the enlarged trigger guard. This is relevant since everyone in Shadow Moses, whether it's Snake or the Genome soldiers, are using some form of gloves, which is perfectly reasonable in sub-zero temperatures. However, were the FAMAS G1 to have a normal sized trigger guard, it would be kind of hard to get your fingers in there and operate the weapon if you had very thick gloves on. However, a much more meta explanation is that the G1 FAMAS has a very blocky appearance that was incredibly easy to render on the PlayStation 1. When Snake gets his hands on this rifle, he can get a call from the team's weapon expert, Nastasha.
That is a FAMAS. It is a bullpup style assault rifle. It is durable and easy to use. Very resistant to overheating. It is a reliable weapon with smooth action. It can fire up to 1,000 rounds per minute. On full auto, you will empty a 25-round magazine in a few seconds.
Nastasha is right about most things that she says about this rifle. It is a bullpup, it does have an incredibly high fire rate, and you will chew through ammo as you use it throughout the game. However, in regards to it being a durable rifle, there are some things to be said here. With the F1 variant of the FAMAS, many complaints came in, as when you would hit the rifle up against the terrain, the frail plastic pieces would break off. The G2 is definitely an improvement in terms of the overall FAMAS durability. However, with the G1, it wasn't really fielded or produced in a meaningful way for us to be able to know whether or not it is a durable rifle. So whether or not it's fragile like the F1 or much more durable like the G2 is kind of up in the air. What isn't up in the air is the fact that the FAMAS G1 is part of Metal Gear's iconography and definitely helped shape the series' identity. It's a brilliantly balanced rifle in the game, fitting in well with the single-purpose design of the entire sandbox. It plays its role of a combat weapon very well and sets the standard for assault rifles in the series moving forward. Sadly, in the series sequel, which does a lot to advance the Metal Gear sandbox, the G1 FAMAS only appears in a cutscene recreation of the game's prologue tanker mission. You can, however, access this weapon in the demo disc of Metal Gear Solid 2, where you can see that it was implemented yet unfinished. In regards to why this rifle was cut, it turns out that Yoji Shinkawa, as well as other staff members, felt like it wouldn't be immersive enough. They wanted to feature rifles like the M4 and AK, to more realistically portray what weapons would actually be used by the factions shown in-game. While I respect their work and respect how this game turned out, I feel like it's a loss to not feature the FAMAS in any shape or form. If you want to make the game immersive, go right ahead, but still, with all the VR missions and all of the extra modes in this game, I'm very surprised that this wasn't included as a bonus weapon. It wouldn't be until Metal Gear Solid 5 that we'd see the FAMAS G1 return, which is ridiculous considering how iconic this rifle was and how synonymous the FAMAS G1 is to the Metal Gear franchise. However, when it returns in Metal Gear Solid 5, it's not quite itself. None of the guns are. If you watch my other series where we decipher what the pseudo guns in Metal Gear Solid 5 are, you'll know that a lot of the guns in Metal Gear Solid 5 are comprised of multiple different guns mashed together, and that is definitely the case for this game's G44. I like to think of it as the anti-FAMAS G1, because while the FAMAS G1 had the G2 trigger guard and the F1 magazines, this gun here has the F1 trigger guard and the G2 magazines. However, despite the pseudo-gun nature and not having the iconic appearance down quite right, this gun here is probably the best the FAMAS type weapons in Metal Gear have ever been. It's incredibly modular, meaning that you can put on whatever optic, suppressor, muzzle device, shotgun, grenade launcher, underbarrel, grip that you want to put onto this gun, making it incredibly broken and busted and nowhere near as cleanly placed in the sandbox as the FAMAS G1 from Metal Gear Solid 1. However, it doesn't change the fact that this gun feels kick-ass to use in Metal Gear Solid 5's open world. There's even a 9mm variant of it, which honestly is more of a claim that the AUG can say that it has, but it's cool that it's here nonetheless. It's kind of like a super FAMAS. It's the last unlockable out of the 4 assault rifles in the game, and tends to be the best balance of all attributes of prior assault rifles. Of course, if you don't have the legendary gunsmith, it's still not going to be quite as good as the MRS4 because you can't really suppress it or do anything quite modular. However, again, Metal Gear Solid 5 allows you to break its sandbox quite early on by getting that legendary gunsmith, and when you do, this gun becomes apex. Before we put this gun back into the vault, the FAMAS G1 is as Metal Gear as a gun can get. It definitely made an impression with the first game, and became synonymous with the franchise. You think Metal Gear Solid 1, you picture Snake holding that FAMAS. You picture him fighting through those cold, wintry nights with this weapon. Metal Gear Solid 2, it was almost in the game, but a lack of respect for the roots or the cool aesthetic of the first game pushed the development team to want to feature more generic weapons. Then, almost sacrilegiously, the FAMAS G1 did not appear in Snake Eater or Metal Gear Solid 4 or Peace Walker. It appeared in Portable Ops in a DLC expansion, so I guess 11 people got to experience that. But it wasn't until Metal Gear Solid 5 that this gun came back in some shape or form. And that's ridiculous, considering that Metal Gear Solid 4 even had a totally nostalgic return to Shadow Moses. With Metal Gear Solid 4, they didn't include any bullpup assault rifles because of the fact that it wouldn't work with the CQC animations that they had, but still, this is the FAMAS. If you're having a return to Shadow Moses, you need to have your FAMAS G1 with you. Despite the disrespect that this gun might have gotten by being left out of later entries, Metal Gear Solid 5 does right to bring back a gun that's evocative of the iconic memories that we all have using this gun in that classic Metal Gear Solid experience. This has been Pliskin, and I'll see you next time in another day at War Without End.